Christmas morning. This can be your special day today. Ooh, this Christmas love. I hope it hears your heart. Hope it hears your heart. Oh, this Christmas love can heat you up inside. Hope it hears your heart. Dashing through the doors of my apartment. Get your black rain boots off of my shine. I will be your gift on Christmas morning. This can be your special day to shine. Whoa, this Christmas love could heat you up inside. Heat you up inside. Feel your heart. This Christmas love, I hope it heals your heart. Hope it heals your heart. La da day, 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 la da day. Whoa, 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 whoa. If I give you a kiss on Christmas morning, I can take away the pain you bear. Whoa, 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 whoa. La da de, la da de, la da de, la da de. Oh, oh, I wish you, I wish you, I wish you. Very light, shining bright, hanging off of trees, through the avenue of Main Street. Children singing, bells are ringing, radio's playing, all kinds of cheer. And they ask me what I want this year. I table with some friends and a few. We can dance and celebrate, cause this is sweet. And we can laugh and we can sing and we can dance around. We can spin around in circles, we can have so much fun. We can laugh and we can sing, come on, gather round. Cause it's Christmas, yeah, it's Christmas in Guyana. Christmas in Guyana, oh yeah, Christmas in Guyana. Another Christmas in Guyana, cause it's Christmas once again. Another year has come and gone. This is everybody's favorite holiday, and we can stop complaining about the sun. The streets are busy, The mall is packed, the market's crowded. Well, look at that, 'cause it's Christmas, everybody's happy. Oh yeah, it's Christmas, let we go and party. And they ask me what I want this year. A table with some friends and a few over from morning till the night of Christmas Eve. We can dance and celebrate, 'cause this is we. And we can laugh and we can sing and we can dance around. We can spin around in circles, we can have so much fun. We can laugh and we can sing, come on, gather round. 'Cause it's Christmas, yeah, it's Christmas in Guyana. Christmas in Guyana. Oh yeah, Christmas in Guyana. Another Christmas in Guyana.
Christmas time, Christmas time, a very special time that comes once a year. Christmas time, Christmas
Hello and welcome to another edition of Momentum, the second edition to be more specific, for Wednesday, December 14. It is a pleasure having you here with me this evening, and I do hope that you're having a good one wherever you are all across this beautiful nation of ours. All right, on tonight's program of Momentum, we will be touching on the subject domestic abuse and violence. That's right, domestic abuse and violence. Now, if this is the first time that you're joining this program, let me just inform you that Momentum is an acronym for Molding Men to Uplift Men. That's right, an acronym for Molding Men to Uplift Men. And this is, if you have guessed by now correctly, then it is a program for men, by men, with men. And so, what we're seeking to do is to uplift the men in our society. We are looking to change the mindset of the men in our society. And of course, this is a task that we couldn't do ourselves. We need your help. And so we'd like to thank you very much for joining us this evening for this wonderful program. We do look forward to spending the time with you and having a wonderful discussion. Joining us on tonight's program will be, or is expected rather, to be the manager of the Gender Affairs Bureau at the Ministry of Human Services and Social Security, Adel Lilly, and alongside him is expected to be Randy Shepherd, who is the president of the men's department of the Church of God of Christ in Guyana. And we'll tell you a little bit more about those gentlemen in just a short while. But for now, let me just say thank you once again for joining me this evening for another edition of Momentum. It is an absolute pleasure being here with you, and I do hope that you'll stick around for the entirety of the program. Let me say thank you very much to those persons who made this evening's program a possibility. The likes of ACE Development Institute and Ewart Sampson, yes, they have contributed to making tonight's program a possibility. And so we'd like to say thank you very much. We do hope that you will continue to support Momentum. Of course, this is a worthy cause, and we look forward to building the men in our society. I'd also like to say thank you very much to my wife, Debbie, who has made this program a possibility also. Without the help of my wife, I could not be able to make this program a possibility. And so I say thank you very much, my love. I do look forward to spending more time with you and to growing together in our ripe and golden old age, all right? Well, the time is moving along, and so we have one of our guests with us this evening. We're waiting for the author to join us. Let me just give you a rundown of how the show will go tonight. So, of course, we will be interacting with our guests, and I did say that we will have Randy Shepherd, and we're expecting Adel to join us in just a short while. And we will be touching on the subject, domestic abuse and violence. So, what is domestic abuse? How do we define the term violence? And we want to be more specific. Will domestic abuse and violence, or will abuse and domestic violence ever end in our society? Just recently, we saw another young couple, succumbing, losing their lives to, well, alleged acts of violence. And, we are wondering, is this a trend that will ever end? Or will it continue and will it get much bigger and bigger? That is something we will be talking about tonight, and I do hope that you stick around for the entirety of the program. Before I introduce you to our first guest this evening, let me share with you that ACE Development Institute and Ewart Sampson, they have put up a $10,000 shopping voucher. That's a $10,000 gift voucher, compliments of ACE Development Institute. So some lucky person is going to be winning that voucher tonight. All you need to do is to, well, let me go that over again. All you need to do is to drop a comment. That's right, drop a comment in the comment section and let us know what is the tagline of East Development Institute and what is the contact number of that institute also. So what is the tagline of East Development Institute and what is the contact number for East Development Institute? If you drop that in the comment section before the end of the program, you can get a chance to win a $10,000 shopping voucher redeemable at a supermarket of your choice. So do ensure that you drop your comments and share with us what is the tagline of East Development Institute, and also what is the contact number for that institute. All right, I see that both of my guests are online, and so I would like to say good evening to both gentlemen, to Randy and to Adele. Good evening to you, gentlemen. Can you hear me clearly?
Yes, Randall. Good evening.
Good evening, good evening. And Adele, how are you this evening, Adele? Adele, we can't hear you. Is your microphone on mute, perhaps? All right. While Adele tries to sort that out for us, let me just remind you that you can win yourself a $10,000 shopping voucher, compliments of East Development Institute tonight. And that shopping voucher will be redeemable at any supermarket of your choice. All you need to do is to drop a comment below and share with us the tagline of East Development Institute, as well as the contact number for East Development Institute, and you can get a chance to win that shopping voucher. All right, so let's see if Adele is with us. Adele, are you with us? Good evening once again.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All right, thank you very much, Adele. I was sharing with our viewers that Adele is the manager of the Gender Affairs Bureau, and that rather falls under the Ministry of Human Services and Social Security. My sincere apologies for that lapse there. And also we have with us Randy Shepherd. Randy Shepherd is the president of the men's department of the Church of God in Christ in Guyana. And so once again, gentlemen, welcome to the program. So let me share with you a little bit more about Adele. Apart from being the manager at the Gender Affairs Bureau, Adele is also a graduate from the University of Guyana with a diploma in public management. He holds a degree in sociology as well as a degree in law. He also holds a postgraduate professional development certificate in gender analysis for development policy and planning from the University of West Indies Cave Hill campus. He served in many capacities in his professional life, such as a school teacher at the Hope, that's the Enmore Hope Primary School. He was also a community youth facilitator at the United Nations Development Program, that's UNDP, and a lecturer at the Critchlow Labour College. Once again, Adele, welcome to the program, and thank you for joining us.
Sure, sir. I'm happy to be
Adele,
here.
it also says, thank you very much. I'm sorry for the interruption. Adele, it also says here that you are a credentialed minister with the New Testament Church of God. Can you explain what that is for us and how it works exactly?
So, I mean, what I am a minister of the Church of God, what some persons will call a reverend, um, with the Church of God in Guyana.
Okay, okay. And so basically, you can go about carrying on services when the pastor is not around or when he may call on you. And in addition, you may have other tasks that you can carry out. Am I correct?
That's correct. So, technically, I'm a preacher in the New Testament Church of God in Guyana.
Very well. Thank you very much for that, Adele. We'll be talking with Adele on our subject for this evening in just a short while. But right now, let us meet Randy Shepherd. I did see that Randy Shepherd is the president of the men's department of the Church of God of Christ in Guyana. He is also the founder of the Men Against Domestic Abuse and Violence movement, which was founded in 2017. The intention of Randy's organization is bringing awareness to men about issues and challenges that they face by giving them a platform to express themselves and letting them know that it is okay to say it is not okay. Randy, once again, welcome to the program. Thank you for having you with us.
Yes, Randall, and thank you for giving me this opportunity to share also.
You are very welcome, Randy. Randy, based on your organization, the tagline of your organization, or rather your intention, to let men know that it is okay to say it is not okay. When exactly is it okay to say it is not okay, Randy? If we may preempt our discussion a little bit. When is it okay to say it is not okay?
We were taught as men. I mean, from the cradle, that men should lock up their emotions inside of them. A man should not show emotions. It's wrong for a man cry. Growing up, when you started to cry, you hear "shut up." You're a boy, child. You crying, crying, crying. Them things to girls, and we grow up with that inside of us. And as men, we locked up our emotions. And when it's too much, we lash out. So the whole idea is to help men to understand. You can reach out to another man. There's nothing wrong with that. It's okay to tell another man, hey, I'm not okay, I need help. That's in a nutshell. Just a time sake.
All right, all right. Thank you very much for that, Randy. Gentlemen, before we get into our discussion for this evening, as is customary, we usually invite our guests to indulge in a game of rapid fire. So before we get, like I said, into our discussion, I'd like to extend that same invitation to you to indulge in this game of rapid fire. Now, let me explain what the game is to you and how we will play it. So rapid fire is a game of words. Basically, what I do is I say a word to you, and I have a list of 10 words for both of you. So I will say a word, and you have to respond with the first word that comes to your mind in a split second. All right? So you have no more than 2 seconds. I'll give you that 2 seconds to respond with the first word that comes to your mind after hearing the word that I have said. If you take too long to answer, we'll move on to the next word. And when you have completed your list of words, we'll come back to whichever word you might have missed in the beginning. So this game is a simple warm-up exercise before we get into our discussion. There are no right, there are no wrong answers. This is just for fun, okay, gentlemen? So may I indulge you in this game before we get into our discussion? I'm very excited, so please say yes.
Yes, sir.
Sure.
All right. So here's what. We'll begin with Adel this evening. Adel, let's start with you. Are you ready for your list of words, Adel?
Yes, sir. Let's see where this goes.
Adel, so let's see where it goes. All right, Adel, I will see your first word. You respond within a split second. Like I said, no more than 2 seconds, rather. And if you take too long to respond, well, then we move on to the next word. So your first word, Adel, here we go. Your first word is relationship,
Family.
manhood,
Be good. I'll give you an
momentum,
example. Great program.
abuse,
Not okay.
strength,
Something we all have.
tongue,
Use it to build up.
patience,
Something I'm working on.
understanding,
I'm critical to wisdom.
peace,
We need it in the world today.
communication.
Something that families should work on.
All right. Great, 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 great. Thank you very much, Adele, for that. Thank you very much. Now, let us know how you think Adele did by dropping a comment right now. Share with us what you think about Adele's performance. Remember, I did say that it's not about being wrong or being right. It's just to get us warmed up and to get us started off on this evening's program. All right. So, what we'll do now while you drop your comment on Adele's performance, we will move over to Randy. So, Randy, it's your turn. Are you ready for your list? For your words, Randy.
Let's go.
Randy, can you hear me?
I'm now hearing you. You paused there for a bit.
All right. All right. So let's go. Randy, your words. Your first word, Randy, is marriage.
Commitment.
Woman. All right,
I didn't
let's
get
move
you
on
there.
to the next word. Issues. All right, so we'll move on to the next word. The next word is issues.
Discuss.
After woman, we have issues. Yes, good.
Discuss.
Togetherness.
Family.
Compromise.
You break up there. I didn't get that.
All right, so let's go again. We'll move on to the next word. The next word now is violence. We'll come back to that one in just a short while, but for now, we're looking at violence.
Say no.
The next word is house.
Make it a home.
Gentleman.
We all need to be.
Caring.
Love.
And the final word, love.
Mhm.
We must show.
All right, so we did miss one. You did miss one. The word that you missed was woman. So let's come back to woman.
Special.
Very well. All right, there we go. Thank you very much for indulging in that game with us, Randy. I hope that you had fun. Please let us know what you think about both gentlemen's performance. Drop a comment below and let us know what you think. All right. So now it is time for us to get into our discussion this evening. So let us not keep you waiting any longer. Let us get straight into our discussion for this evening. Before we, get any further with anything else. Of course, there are a number of pressing questions that we may want to get off the bat immediately. And just recently, we saw another act of violence being meted out against a young couple. Our condolences goes out to that young couple, as a matter of fact. And before we get into anything, anything else, gentlemen, I'd like for you to share with us how you define the term abuse and also violence. How do you define the term abuse and how do you define the term violence? Perhaps we should start with Randy this time. So, Randy, how do you define the term abuse and how do you define the term violence? And then we'll come over with the same question to Adele.
For me, abuse, you can define it in many ways. Many ways. It can be verbally, physically, mentally. There's so many ways you can put that word together, and it's something that it's really reaping havoc on our society, so to speak. Violence, for me, same thing. What is the word to use? We open up ourselves so much to not wanted not want to accept the reality of certain things. And first, and I'm speaking here about men, is that I ain't gonna take you last. You ain't gonna hit me and get off. Even if we watch it in the schools today, we watch among the young people, everything is just a hit, a hit. And these days they're not hitting with their hands. They're finding other things to hit with.
So, in essence, you're saying that it's something that is very prevalent and that we need to be more, more stern towards. That's what you're saying, Randy, in terms of violence and abuse.
yeah, in a nutshell, yeah, we need to do more, and we need for me, I think we need a lot more programs for young people. We need a lot more. I don't think there's enough. We send. I noticed that we have a lot of people going into these schools and talking to these young guys, talking to young men, but they're not listening to them. They just go into the schools and they tell these young men how they should behave, and they're not giving these young men the opportunity to express themselves, to try to understand where they're coming from, what they're dealing with, and that is one of the things that need to change.
All right, all right. Well, Randy, thank you very much for that.
Just my little thought on
Thank you
that.
very much for that, Randy. Adele, will come over to you. How do you define the term abuse? And then how do you also define violence? In a nutshell, if you were to put it together, what would you see is abuse and what is violence?
All right. So first, let me say that all of the views that I will express here tonight are my personal views and not those of the Ministry of Human Services. Um, how do I define violence? I define violence as anything that affect the human rights of an individual. And I believe abuse is the same. I don't believe that abuse and violence differ. I believe that these things are the same. I know there's some school of thought that argue that it's different, but I don't necessarily believe it's different. Sexual abuse and sexual violence, in my mind, is the same thing. So anything that violates the human rights of someone, I will consider to be abuse um, and violence. I believe it is more than physical. It is more than what you see with the naked eyes, but it goes beyond that. It includes that um, verbal, psychological, mental, and so on. So, in other words, to me, again, it's something that violated human rights of an individual.
All right. Anything that violates the human rights of an individual. But are we aware of at least some of the basic rights that we have as human beings? I wonder, Adele, what do you think? Are we aware of those? What are your thoughts?
I think fundamentally it is there. People know what their rights are. We do have how those rights are manifest itself. It is not always known by people, and I believe that both the government has to continue what the government have been doing in terms of doing this, but also civil society have a role to play in educating people about what those fundamental rights are. For Guyana, those rights are prescribed in our constitution. Um, and beyond that is also part of the convention, the different conventions that we will sign on to at the international level. But we have to do that continuous education for persons to know what their rights are. But the right to life, the right to be free from abuse and violence. It is people know that the right to not to abuse someone and to take advantage of someone are universal. I mean, of course, we have some other things like political participation, economic empowerment, and so on. But I think
Right,
that
right,
the
right.
basic human rights, persons are aware of those rights. But people, we need to
And
do more education on the manifestation and how these rights are played out in our society.
I do agree with you, Adele, that education, more emphasis could be placed on education as it relates to not only the human rights, but also many of the laws that should be common knowledge in our country. I believe there should be more emphasis on the education of those. Adele, you spoke about the rights being prescribed and enshrined in our constitution and so on. So maybe we should just leave that there and encourage persons right now, if they want to be more educated about their rights, then maybe they should take a look at the constitution of Ghana, and they can at least be informed of some of those basic rights. And as you mentioned to or alluded to a little bit earlier, the United Nations Convention, the Human Rights Charter, and all these things are good resources for persons to do their research, to ascertain what are some of their basic rights. Moving on with our program. So that's how we define abuse and violence. Adel says it's anything that violates the human rights of an individual, the basic or altogether the human rights of an individual. And Randy said that it's something that is happening too much in our society. There's no dialogue taking place anymore, and it is something that we should work on eradicating more. He said that one of the ways for us to do so is through education. Now, as we move on to that, right? There have been a number of programs throughout the years aimed at curbing the practice of domestic violence. And it's something that, as the question suggests, or the statement I just made suggests, something that has been occurring for a number of years. I'm sure both gentlemen would agree. And yes, there have been a number of programs, a number of initiatives that have been launched aimed at curbing the practice or the trend of domestic violence. But gentlemen, I'd like to ask you this evening, which of those programs or which of those initiatives you believe might have been the most effective? And if you had your way, what would you have done differently to stamp out domestic violence from within our society? So two questions coming at you there. One, which do you believe has been the most effective uh, program or initiative, rather, excuse me, in terms of stamping out domestic violence from within our society? And what would you have done differently to ensure that it is eradicated from among us? Let's begin with Adele this time. Adele, please take a jump at that question.
So, I mean, look, we have had, and you're correct, we have done a number of work in Guyana over the years around the issue of domestic violence. Um, and I don't necessarily know if I can really say which one is better than the other, um, because all of these programs seek to address issues at some particular level. And I think all of these programs will have garnered um, some level of success and failures. And that's the thing about public policy, that you have to constantly review what you're doing, and then really realize what more you need to do and where you need to um, put your resources. I know currently we have in Guyana the Spotlight Initiative, which is um, a major undertaking to address violence against women and girls. And you're right, we have had a number of programs. Now, what will I do differently? Again, because of the different nuances that exist around the issue of violence against women and girls, particularly women and girls, and not, I mean, I'm not saying, you know, not downplaying violence against men and boys, but I believe that it is important that you bring men to the table. And we have been doing that now, because the issue of violence is a larger contextual issue, not just violence against women, but is a relational issue. How we teach boys to control their anger, how we teach boys to solve problems, the context of masculinity, and so on. So we cannot address violence against women and girls if we don't talk about who is perpetrating the violence, which in large measure is men and boys. All right. So for me, based on what we would have done before, I think that maybe it would have been something that we would not have done much, which is to bring men on board and really talk about men, even in the context of gender equality, which we're doing now. But I think that, I mean, that might have been error in the past. I think also to address the issue of violence also from the standpoint of toxic masculinity. We have done it so much in a negative way that we have not really um, seek to empower men and boys around the issue they face. Because when we address the issue of violence against women and girls around toxic masculinity, what we seek to do is to demasculate the man And we can address the issue of violence against women and girls and not emasculate or demasculate a man. Allow that man to be a man. Um, and that's also another problem, Wendell, which we have to talk about. How do we um, define a manhood in Guyana? So that would be my response to that question. I don't think that I would want to say that there was any program that was better than the other. I believe that bringing men to the table around this conversation is important.
Mhm, mhm. All right. I believe that's fair enough. And you mentioned about that program, Spotlight. Maybe we can garner some more information about it so that, the men listening to this program can tune in and be able to benefit from that program. Randy, what would be your response to that question? Let me repeat it for your benefit. There have been a number of programs throughout the years aimed at curbing the practice of domestic violence. Which do you believe has been the most effective? And if you had your way, what would you have done differently to stamp out domestic violence and abuse from within our society? Randy.
To answer the first question, as Adel rightfully said, you cannot. There've been a lot of programs, and you cannot what was affect the other one. But my is that a lot of these programs, for me, and this is my view, my personal view, a lot of these programs I see them as just one-off programs. They just happen, a 2-3 day workshop, and then that's it. And you wait another 6 to 8 months, then you come up with something else. And if you're trying to fix something, for me, and here you're dealing with men, you gotta keep banging at it. You gotta keep banging at it. I always say, and I deal with a lot of men. I have a group with over about 150 men. We meet on various dates, and we have discussions. And one of the main concern is that, or interpret anything that I'm saying the wrong way. But one of the main concern is that we have so many programs that are empowering women. And if you find 50 programs that are empowering women, you got about 3 that are dealing with men issues. And you need to have a balance. You need to have a balance. Now, how can you empowering a woman, and then that same woman that you empower is going to go and take a broken guy that is dealing with a whole lot of things. And she now, after being empowered, she don't know how to deal with him, and he don't know how to deal with her. So you have a clash there. And he being a man can tell himself, well, as we men always say, we in control, we run things. So it needs to be a balance in the programs when it comes to empowering both men and women. You need to have a balance. The balance is not there. The balance is not there. You can do research. There is so many things that women can tap into, and we as men, we cannot tap into it. And even if we can tap into it, it's not being shared out there that, okay, there's this program for men, there's this program for men. You only hear about these programs on Father's Day, International Men's Day. And if we need to build a society of stronger men who know how to deal with anger and deal with emotions, we need programs outside of Father's Day and International Men's Day. We definitely need that. And
All right, Randy. Okay, go ahead. Sorry, my apologies. Go right ahead.
we also need, as I said before in my opening remarks, we need a lot of programs within the school system. We need We need a lot
All
of
right.
program in the school system. We need men that are prepared to go to the communities and meet men and talk with them, understand them. Because if we sit and wait for these guys to come to us, they're not going to come when they're not going to come. So if I
So I
have
believe what
my
you're saying,
way
Randy, is
in doing something
go ahead.
different,
Yeah. Yeah.
if I have my way in doing something different when it comes to programs for men, it's more community outreach. Go on the ball field, reach them there. Be prepared to smell the herb smoke. Be prepared to listen to them in their comfort zone. And for me, I think that would bring about a change and a very big change.
Okay. But I mean, meeting them and talking with them is one thing, right, Randy? Meeting with them and talking them is one thing. But then what is the information that you're sharing with them? And then not only that, are they receptive to that information? I hear you on the point that you're going with. So is the information solid information? Are they receptive to it? And then I'm going to move on to another R. Are they going to retain that information? And not only will they retain it, will they be able to utilize it when it is necessary for them to do so? Randy, those are some questions that I would want to pitch your way to have to keep the discussion going. But I tell you what, time is running away from us very, very quickly. All right. So maybe we could pick up on that in a subsequent discussion. Because right now, what I want to do is to pick both of you up on something that you have both said. All right. Um, First, Adele said that he defined abuse in terms of it being anything that violates the human rights of an individual. And, he went on to speak about not empowering our boys and our men and the likes. And Randy was just talking about meeting the men on the battlefield or on the playground and interacting with them and being more social with them. And he also alluded to the fact that there needs to be a balance. There needs to be more programs that would hit home with the men. Gentlemen, we are on the subject of abuse and domestic violence, and I'd really want to hear your feedback on this question in your own words. What do you believe is the root cause for acts of domestic violence or abuse being meted out against a person, be it man or woman? What do you think is the root cause? Do you think that someone just okay, there was this recent incident where the barber shot his wife, who is an employee at the Attorney General Chambers. That's the most recent incident we can turn to. It happened just about a day ago. Now, what do you think caused, if, because I did say alleged, I hope I did say alleged, it was an alleged murder suicide. What do you think could have caused the perpetrator to carry out such an act? And, that's what we're trying to find out. What do you think is the root cause of acts of abuse and domestic violence? Adele, you've been quiet for a very long time. What do you think is the root cause for acts of abuse and domestic violence?
Look, when we think about violence, um, domestic violence, gender-based violence, it is a power dynamics, the issue of power. The issue of gender is about relations of power. One of the number one reasons for violence in our society is people who believe they have more power than others. People have said that the issue of alcohol is one of the reason and root cause. And I've argued, look, alcohol play a role. There's no doubt about it. But it doesn't matter how drunk a man is drunk. When he sees someone with a gun, he sober up. When you see the police, yes, he might behave a little disorderly, but more than likely, he will pull himself up. The issue of domestic violence is the issue of power, whether it is the woman who's abusing the man or the man who's abusing the woman. We have to address the issue of power relations in our society. And you know what? That comes out how we see people, how we're socialized. If we socialize boys around the case of they being more superior than women, we'll continue to see them abusing women. If we superior, if we socialize them around, the woman must listen to them, and the woman must hear them, and they have a right to discipline a woman when she do something bad. We'll continue to see more violence. We have to address the issue of power relations. We have to address the issue from that standpoint of people are individual and they must be respected, whether you are female or whether you are male. No, I am not taking away the other challenges that we face in our society, such as addressing relational issues. How do you relate to each other on a personal level, intimacy, and so on? We're not taking away that, but I believe that fundamentally it's a matter of power. I also believe that a part of that power is how we socialize our boys and girls. Now, one of the things that took me back when when I heard about the killing of the lawyer yesterday is that we continue to talk to women, but we also continue to talk about women empowerment. And if you empower women, um, this might not happen to her. But here was a woman who will quote we think is empowered. My question is, in this whole alleged case yesterday, was this a one-time incident? Did she want to leave? Those are some of the dynamics, huh? But I still believe it's a matter of power. We also think about this when we talk about the issue of power too. When a woman wants to leave a relationship and the man said, "Look, you ain't going nowhere because you me woman," quote unquote. There's this context that the woman is a property of the man. And so I believe we have to address the issue of power. We have to address the issue of power relation, and that has to do with how we socialize men and boys around the issue of power. Do we have power for control or power to influence? And those are some of the conversation that we have to get. And I think it's something that we have to address too. No, notwithstanding that we live in a very violent society too, Wendell. Sometimes we beat our children for everything. Children don't do the work well in school. We beat them. We beat them for school work. The children are doing child thing with go playing on the street corner, or you send them to buy something and they come back, a bit late. We beat them for that. We live in a violent society. We raise up violent children, and again, it has to do with power.
Mm.
And so that's my response to
Right,
you.
right. I hear you. I hear you. I hear you. You're saying that the root cause for acts of abuse and domestic violence is that power struggle, that feeling or that desire to dominate, to have a sense of domination. That's what you're saying, Adele.
Correct.
Right, right, right. Okay. I would want to come over to Randy with that same question now. What do you think, Randy, is the root cause for acts of domestic violence being meted out against the person?
I agree with Adel to an extent. It's a power issue because we as men we're taught that a man has to be in control. A man should be in control. And one of the things we as men need to do is to stop seeing the women that we take in our lives as an investment. They're gifts. They're not investment. We for some reason we feel that, oh, I invest so much in she, and now she telling me she want to go. Now she telling me she want to end this relationship. If I can't get she, nobody else can get she. So it's a struggle. It's a struggle that men deal with. They feel that they have to be in charge. I mean, there are men also that are being abused, but we lose more of our women to domestic abuse and gender-based violence. And it's a struggle. It's a struggle for men, and as I said, we need to understand as men that they're not our property. They're a gift, and sometimes we lose gifts. And if you really really love that person, you let go. You will let go. We were taught a man should not do that. I talk to men in my group, and before they join the group, their wives were in hospital, their girlfriends, and they would throw away their underwear because they don't want to be seen washing it, because it's not a man thing. So we need to start teaching our sons that there's nothing when it comes to taking somebody daughter. There is nothing called man thing.
But Randy, allow me to jump in here
There is
because
nothing called man thing,
I
and you
hear
does
you.
not you does not.
I'm sorry, Randy, if I may just jump in here because I hear you on that point, right? But what you're talking about there, Randy, is really something that I don't want to say too much about it in a negative light. But in my own perspective, Randy, I would say that something like that would be a culture change. You'd have to change a whole culture. And to change a culture, it takes maybe one, two, three generations. Maybe Adele could shed some light on that for us. But I mean, we're talking about a whole culture change there in terms of it's a man thing and it's not a woman thing. So how exactly do we deal with that? Changing a whole culture. And like I said, to change a culture, it takes about one, two, three, sometimes more than four generations. So how exactly do we deal with that?
Wendell, nothing happens overnight. Nothing happens at the click of a finger. I grew up in an environment where I saw my uncles beat their wives every single day for every single thing. Literally beat them, pelt them down step, pelt them through door, kick them, cuff them. I grew up in that environment. And those were the male figures that I had in my life to look up to. And at one point in time in my life, I thought, well, okay, that is the way to get a woman attention. That is the way to get a woman to understand that you're in charge. And I thank God that I was able to grow. And as I grow, I realized, no, that's not the way to go. That is not the way to go. So it's a yes, as you're saying, it's a culture, and it may take 3, 4 generations, but we have to start somewhere, Wendell. We have to start at some point. We are losing too many of our women. You know, come back to the incident with the lawyer and the barber. I saw a young man made a comment under the post on Facebook. These women need to know who is in charge. And that in itself should tell you something that a young man comment under it. These women need to know who is in charge. So yes, it's a culture something. I'm not saying it's something that can happen at the click of a finger, but we need to develop. Those of us who want to see that change, we need to allow it to start with us, and we need to develop a passion to bring about that change. And I'll stop there.
All right. Randy, thank you very much for that. Adele, thank you very much for your insight into our questions so far. I see that the time is really running away from us, but I'm just going to borrow maybe about 5 or 10 minutes more of your time, gentlemen. Before we get into any other discussion, however, let me just remind you that you can drop a comment right now, sharing with us the tagline of East Development Institute as well as their contact number, and you can get a chance to win a $10,000 shopping voucher, compliments of East Development Institute. That's a $10,000 shopping voucher, compliments of East Development Institute. Let me say thank you for joining if you are doing so right now. And if you've just joined us, you are tuned into Momentum. My name is Wendell Badri, and we are discussing the topic domestic abuse and violence. And joining me on the program this evening is Randy Shepherd, who is the president of the men's department of the Church of God in Christ in Guyana and the manager of the Gender Affairs Bureau at the Ministry of Human Services and Social Security, Adel Lilly. So ensure that you drop your comment, get a chance to win that $10,000 shopping voucher. In the meantime, let me continue with our questions for our guests. And so we move on with the questions. My next question. All right, we were just talking about culture shifts and changing the cycle of violence. Really is something that we should look into. But as it is right now, Randy, as it is right now, Adele, the fact of the matter is that this is something that is very much prevalent among us rather. It is happening in our midst, and it, is something that we continue to frown upon, but it continues to happen, sometimes right under our noses and under our eyes. So how does one, I had this question in the bias of a man, but I'm not going to go with that bias anymore. I want to make it more, relational. So, how does a person really understand that they are in that cycle of violence and abuse, and what do they do to get out of that cycle, or to get out of that trap, I would want to see, of violence and abuse? Adele, do you have any insights to share on that? How does one recognize that they are in a cycle of abuse and violence, and what do they do, or how do they get out of such a situation?
So, like I said earlier, you have to be aware of what your human rights are, what you're supposed to accept. Um, the truth of the matter is, you are not supposed to be abused in any form, verbally, physically, no way. You must know whether that's the right thing or not, and reject it. Now, to leave is not always easy, and a lot of times we ask ourselves why she stay. A lot of times the reason why the woman stay in the abusive relationship or the man is multifaceted. It might be for economic purposes. It might be because of the need for validation. But I would advise anyone who is in an abusive relationship and you recognize that this relationship is not what you're supposed to be in. It doesn't celebrate you. The relationship doesn't celebrate you. You lose more than what you gain. You are not happy, that everything you do is considered wrong. You are constantly put down. You're constantly seen as not useful, not helpful. Is to seek out the help that is available. Talk to someone. That's one of the first things. You have to talk to someone. Help develop a plan with someone. So talk to someone. Help develop a plan with someone. Seek out the support that exists, whether it is from the government standpoint or civil society, NGOs. Call 914. Come into the Ministry of Human Services. Utilize the resources that exist in the ministry, and the Ministry of Human Services has a number of programs that can help you, whether you're a male or a female and experiencing violence, a child. Okay. You also have the service of places like Help and Shelter, Red Thread, and so on. Those organizations that exist. Um, so seek them out. Seek out help. I believe too that the church has a role to play in this too. The church must become a place of refuge for victims and survivors of violence. So that would be my advice to them. Go to a religious leader, go to someone, seek out the service of the ministry. As usual. Yes, over to you,
All
Randy.
right, all right, all right. And you said in order for them to recognize that they are being abused or taken advantage of is to understand their rights. That is one of the first and foremost way for them to recognize.
That's right. That's right.
Right. So it begins with education. It begins with educating yourself. And education doesn't necessarily have to be you're going back to school and you're writing your CXC subjects, or you're pursuing your CAPE subjects and you're going to university and all that. Education can be as simple as reading an article in the newspaper and learning something new. So that's what education is all about. So become educated about your rights is what Adele is saying. and you can avoid falling into that trap or that cycle of violence and abuse. Randy, what would be your insights into that? How does one recognize that they are in a cycle or trap in relation to abuse and violence, and how do they escape such?
Um, when you meet somebody and you decide, well, okay, we're going to start a relationship, and things are going dandy, so to speak, and then you started to see some changes. The tone of voice started to change. Everything becomes an issue that was never an issue. And sometimes we doesn't see what they call quote unquote the red flags, and we ignore them. We see them and we ignore them. I talk with women and I ask them, I said, why? Why is it? You're seeing this all the time. Why you didn't stop it? Oh, the first stop was just a mistake. The first time after 5 years, he started to shout at me and he started to curse me. It was just a mistake. The first time she felt something at me, it was just a mistake. It's not a mistake. It's a sign. Sometimes you talk to women and you ask them why you stay. I have 3 kids for him. Who's going to take me with 3 kids? Who's going to help me with those 3 kids? What am I going to do? Some women literally look at me in my eyes and they said, I prefer to stay and take 2 cups and be kicked and my children can get a meal every day. And it breaks my heart to hear that. And I try to help them to understand that it takes one cuff and one of those kicks, and your children still can leave without a parent. And what both male and female need to understand in abusive relationship, when one parent is no more, that parent that is responsible for that parent not being there anymore is also out of the picture. So the kids still leave to feel the pain and to suffer. Kids is no excuse. Yes, Adel said earlier that, it may be financially different reasons why they would want it. And one of the things I want to use this opportunity to do is to commend the ministry on the safe homes that they're presently creating for these women and men that are dealing with abusive relationship. And one of the things I would like to see, having the head of the Gender Affairs Bureau on your program, one of the things I would like to see is more ads about these things, putting them out there more, help enlighten people that, okay, you want to get out, we have somewhere for you and your kids. We have a program that will take care of you and your kids for a certain time. We will help you to get back on your feet. We will help you to get a piece of house lot. We will help to keep you safe from this guy. That is one of the things I would love to see happen. So relationship, when you see the red flag, it's not a mistake. It's not a mistake. From the first slap, find a way out. Find a way out. Another thing, quickly, if I may, is that when you get the first slap or the first cuff and you move, he come back and he tell you thing that happen again. And most of the time we fall back in the trap, both male and female. So we need to pay attention why we stay in these relationships.
If I may, in a nutshell, what Randy just said is in order for someone to recognize that they're being abused and taken advantage of, that they're in a violent relationship, is to pay attention to the red flags. And sometimes the red flags can come in a simple tone of voice. It doesn't necessarily have to be the physical action. It can be a simple tone of voice to help you recognize that red flag. All right, gentlemen, there were a whole lot more questions that I needed to pitch your way, but time is really against us now. And so we have to bring the curtain down on this evening's discussion. But before I let you go, of course, I'd like for both of you to share your insights this evening with that person listening. What is one point of note which you would like for them to absorb and incorporate into their daily lives to help improve their decision-making process and to help them lead a better life altogether? So what is one point, or maybe no more than three, maybe no more than 3 points that you would like to share with that person listening right now to help improve their daily decision-making process? These are things that they can help to incorporate in their lives. Um, Adel, we haven't heard from you in a while, so please take the jump for us at this one.
So look, my advice to people have often been this: you need to know your worth. You need to know who you are. You must not limit yourself because of someone. Understand who you are. Understand the strength that you have. So that's one. Understand who you are, and every decision you make it with understanding the individual you are and what you have inside of you. You have the capacity for greatness, and you must not let yourself down and let that greatness that is inside of you down because of someone else. And finally, I often encourage persons to put on the best fight they can. And putting on the best fight, I believe it is always to be strategic. If you're going to be victorious, you have to be strategic. Some fight, don't get yourself involved in. Don't get yourself involved in them. You can fight by not fighting. So again, one, I encourage you to know your worth and fight hard. And some fight does not require you fighting. And if you do those things, things will be all right for you. And again, I'm speaking from my
Fight
own.
hard, know your worth.
That's right. That's right.
Sure, sure. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Adele. And Randy, what would be maybe that or those points that you would like persons to note, that they can help to make better decision making as they go about their daily lives?
Giving up is not an option. My mentor that helped to mold my life, Dr. Kwame Gilbert, about 10 years ago, he preached a message, and the title of the message was "The Donkey Carriers." There are some people that is going to push you to the top of the mountain. And there are some people that is going to pull you to reach the top of the mountain. Sometimes we we
All right.
we need to understand that our wants and our needs are two different things. And I just want to say to our brother tonight, the end of the road is not maybe not what you want it to be, but it's what you make it. Is what you make it.
All right. I must apologize, dear Randy. We didn't get to hear everything you said very clearly. Your comments came in a little broken up. But I tell you what, in the interest of time, I'm just going to allow you to summarize what you just said. And we heard up to your mentor, what your mentor advised you, in terms of there are people that are going to push you up and that are going to pull you up to get to the mountain. All right. But I'll just ask you to summarize as we get ready to wrap things up this evening in your closing remarks. So this is the floor for you to issue your closing remarks, Randy, and to summarize that point for us once again. Thank you very much.
Basically, what I was trying to say in a nutshell is that keep pushing, keep pushing. Don't don't give up. Don't give up. There's light at the end of the tunnel. And in my closing remarks, I want to encourage my brothers.
Yeah.
I just want to encourage you, my brothers. Let's break this stigma. Let's break it. Let's break it. Let's bring about a change. Let's make a shift when it comes to us as men. It's okay for a man to say he's
All right.
not okay.
Yeah.
A man and talk to. It's okay for a man to hug a man and cry. It's okay for a man to hug a man and say, I love you, my brother. It's okay to say you're not okay. There's nothing wrong with that. There is nothing funny with that.
All right. Randy, thank you very much for
I'll leave it
spending
there.
time with us this evening. We do appreciate it. Adele, your closing remarks.
So I will advocate for us to really challenge those stereotypes that exist in our society, those gender norms that promote inequality and violence. Um, to just like um, Randy said, to my brothers out there, seek out help, seek support. Let's challenge toxic masculinity. Let us um, understand that we can be better, that we have greatness inside of us, that our role is to protect women. It is to love them, is to be there for them, and not to abuse them. We have to collectively, as a society, challenge the status quo. One woman more isn't okay. We cannot continue to kill our women. It is not just to kill them, but even to beat them, to abuse them. We have to love them. We have to do it. And I think collectively as a society, we have to do something. We need all hands on deck to challenge the status quo and for us to do more. Thank you very much for having me tonight, bro.
Gentlemen, thank you very much for taking the time from your busy schedule to chat with us this evening. It is an absolute pleasure. And I do hope that as you continue with the week ahead, that things will only get better for you and that those hurdles, if there are any, will be removed with ease from within your path. So, once again, thank you for joining us. And it is an absolute pleasure, even though, if I may be allowed to say this before we wrap things up, even though I believe that we were not even able to scratch the surface tonight. I would usually say that we only scratch the surface in terms of our discussion. But tonight, I don't believe we were able to even scratch the surface. However, I do commit to ensuring that we have more of these types of discussion on our program. Randy, Adele, once again, thank you. Wishing you a great week ahead.
Thank you, Wenda. Going to hear your family.
You too, Wendell.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, has brought us. Thank you very much. My apologies. So, that, ladies and gentlemen, has brought us, well, not quite to the end, but we are almost at the end of this evening's program. And so, I would just like to thank you for being here with us. It is an absolute pleasure. An hour, 24 or more minutes well spent. I do hope that you have enjoyed and that you were able to glean some of what our guests were sharing with you this evening. Of course, on our program next week, we will be looking at the subject alcohol consumption and addiction. Alcohol consumption and addiction. So, what is it? And is this something that we can, overcome as men, as, persons in society? Is it something that we can overcome? Alcohol consumption and addiction. I do look forward rather to you joining me on next week's program of Momentum, where we will be discussing that subject, alcohol consumption and addiction. We wrap things up this evening, and I want to say thank you very much for joining me on the second edition of Momentum for Wednesday, December 14, 2022. We're just about 11 days away from Christmas, and I do hope that you're having a wonderful season so far, and that it will continue to be a great one for you, that all your wishes will come through, and that you will spread lots of love, lots of peace and joy all around wherever you go. Thank you very much for joining this evening's discussion, and I do look forward to you being here with us on next week's program. So long, take care, bye-bye.
King Money Town, Christmas time come around. Me 52. Ha! Christmas come but once a year. Every man must have his share. Not only galley coke and ginger beer, but all types of cake no share. Every year at Christmas time,